What is up, Smugcasters? This week's episode brought to you, as always, Ranger Nutrition. Ranger Nutrition, disabled veteran-owned company. They sell all natural sports nutrition products, and they are freaking amazing. From their protein powder to their pre-workout formulas to their weight loss supplements, we've got BJ on some testosterone replacement. It's doing him wonders. He feels better than ever. It's all natural, which means you can combine them to make combos. You can make your swole combo, which is my favorite. It's your max out pre-workout drink, along with a Catalyst XT and some Nitro NO2. It is wonderful. If you go to their website, that's rangernutrition.com, use promo code SMUGCAST at checkout, you will receive 15% off your order. That's Ranger Nutrition, designed for fitness warriors. Also, got to thank Repo Records. They hooked it up here over the holidays. The studio is looking fantastic. I can't thank them enough. But that's Repo Records, taking the music back. Also, big shout out to Jay's Wings and Seafood over on the east side of Indianapolis. They have some great food. I mean, absolutely. I know I've said it before, but I love the cheesesteak. It's great. I'd love to have one right now. I'm starving. But if you get in there, use promo code SMUGCAST, you will get 10% off your order. And got a very special guest in studio this week, our friends from Norml. And with that, this is Smugcast.
Come on, get down to it. I'm trying to run to the chopper and
Yes!
my GPS system was stuck in the goddamn jungle. Come on.
This is Smugcast. Listen up.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Smugcast. I'm AP. With me, as always, my man, the BJ.
Feels good to be back in the saddle again.
It does. It really does,
We
man.
haven't done a live one in a while.
I know. We had to pre-record a bunch, and now this is the first live one that we've came back and actually been able to do.
And we're coming back strong in this episode.
We are. We have a very special guest in the studio today, something that's near and dear to my heart. We have Mr. Jack Cain. He is on the board of directors for Norml. How are you, sir?
Good, PJ. And
Good.
Aaron,
Good to have you here, sir.
Yes.
Appreciate the invitation. Look forward to it.
I've been looking forward to this episode. I really have.
I have too, because there's a lot that we can learn, and I think with everything that's going on around us, we have to be more open-minded and not just have tunnel vision with everything.
Oh, absolutely.
And especially with everything that's coming out, but necessarily might not be true about certain things, that we need to just look at all sources that are around us.
Apparently, there's been a lot of fake news lately, so I'm told.
My dad used to say there's at least two sides to every argument.
Absolutely.
At least two sides.
Oh, yeah. For those of you who may not know what Norml is, which is Indiana Norml, is actually the Indiana chapter of the national, group Norml, which is NORML, which is the National Organization to Reform Marijuana Laws. For those of you who do know me, you know that I used to be able to use cannabis. I can't anymore.
More's a pity.
Yes. And I just really wanted to bring somebody on to kind of help spread the word that maybe we are looking at this all wrong.
Absolutely.
So we're going to try to get into a lot today. I know we try to keep our podcast pretty short, but this may run long. It may not. I'm not sure. We'll just have to see where it goes.
Well, thanks again for letting me come on, guys.
Oh, absolutely. So what, you say you're on the board of directors. What does that entail?
Well, Indiana, let me give some background on Indiana
Okay.
Norml. People may not know it. It's like you mentioned, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. It's been around since 1972. National organization that has state chapters throughout the country. And they've been working since the inception of the war on drugs from Richard Nixon's time to make people realize the futility of the war on drugs, particularly the war on marijuana. And so each one of the chapters is working very hard to do what we can to change marijuana law so people don't get thrown in jail for using a plant.
A plant.
A plant.
A
natural plant, yeah.
A natural plant. This is not man-made.
Exactly. So,
And no, it can't kill you.
cannot kill you.
No, can't. No way. It's impossible.
So-
It's actually physically impossible if you want to think about it.
Yeah. So it's a not-for-profit organization. We've been around in Indiana for about 40 years. We were started by Steve Dillon, who is actually on the board of directors of National Norml.
Okay.
Okay. He's one of the leading. He's retired now, but he was one of the leading drug law lawyers in the state.
Okay.
And volunteer organization, 501c3 membership. I think we've got something like 500 members throughout the state. And we try and get around and do different activities so that people know that, hey, that marijuana isn't a dangerous drug and that the laws against it are ridiculous and we should do something to change those.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I saw on your website where you can become a member of iNormal. Like, how does that work?
Well, basically, it's like any volunteer organization. It costs $25 a year for membership, and you get. We are trying to do a newsletter. We're revamping our technology. Okay, coming up with a new website, got a new webmaster, and redoing some of the things, trying to get more technologically literate, if you would.
Yeah.
And get more. We're going to try and do some of the things we've done in the past. We've attended a Gay Pride. We always have a great attendance of Gay Pride. Get a lot of membership there, and a lot of donations. Sell a lot of T-shirts and.
Yep.
Various bumper stickers and things. We were at Black Expo this year for the second year, talking about the racist impact of the marijuana laws. We were this year we were at the Indiana State Medical Association.
Oh, really?
Passing out some literature to some of the doctors. And I was really surprised we got a lot of interest in that. And we got one of the things, I brought a couple of books here that I'll leave with you guys.
Okay.
That are really helpful. This one is Emerging Clinical Applications for Cannabis and Cannabinoids. A review of recent scientific literature. This is by Paul Armentano, their Norml deputy director. And it does an outstanding job of talking about individual illnesses and ailments and how those are affected and can be treated by cannabis and cannabinoids.
It seems like there's just no limit to what it can actually help.
It's amazing when you stop and think about cannabis, and it's like you mentioned, Aaron, that the correct term is cannabis. Marijuana was a slang term invented in the 30s.
Well,
it's a derogatory term.
It was actually I found this out not too long ago that marijuana was actually the name of a wild tobacco that grew in Mexico.
Ah, really? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that was part of the Reefer Madness, to try to make it sound more Mexican,
more dangerous. Yes.
Yeah.
So and racist. So
yeah.
So we're trying to get out, and we do. So when you become a member, you get to support the organization. Essentially, we don't. There's not a lot of other perks to it.
Yeah.
But we need all the help we can get. One of the things we're going to try and do in the future, we've talked about this for years, is to go around and do like regional meetings, okay, or events, movies, discussions, whatever. Like go up to Fort Wayne or down to Evansville or around. And I think that's going to be particularly helpful. We're trying to motivate. We need to mobilize people in the given community to get out and get involved. Because the thing I've learned from working with the legislature is that the legislators really don't care, okay?
No.
Other than being, conservative, generally speaking, they really want to have some cover. So if you go into an area and your representative feels like, hey, look, there's a majority of the people in my district, or a huge amount of people in my district that are for this, all of a sudden they've got some cover to go out and support that and say, yes, we should at least talk about this, or maybe at least get a hearing for some of these marijuana bills.
Yes, say every bill from Senator
Italian?
Yeah. That's what, it's not even received.
Yeah, the Republicans won't even give it a chance. They won't even talk about it, which really in a democracy is really antithetical to a democratic process.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about, BJ, okay, there's at least there's multiple different venues and areas we need to consider and schools of thought and opinions. And to really just automatically out of hand dismiss it is really detestable.
Yeah. It's like now we have, 7? There's 7 different bills that go from hemp to...
Yeah, there's something like, I didn't know the exact number, but there's 5 or 6 different bills. And it's really interesting because there's a big groundswell of activity. There's Norml's been around here in Indiana for 40 years. But there's also a couple of other organizations, Higher Fellowship, David Phipps on the down in Beech Grove area. And most recently, the one that's getting a lot of headlines, a big article in the newspaper today, is Hoosier Veterans for Cannabis. A guy named Jeff
that's-
Staker.
Yeah.
I've
I've been seeing a lot of that lately.
He's doing a great job.
Okay.
Getting out there and really rubbing elbows and talking with the legislators. He bought a bunch of these books and sent them all to the legislators.
Oh, that's what he sent? I saw that. Yeah.
So he's doing a tremendous job. And the thing that's great about that is that one of the things we were talking about doing during the show here is to trying to debunk some of the myths and the
absolutely.
stereotypes.
Yeah.
When I testified several years ago about the hemp bill, I think, one of the legislators afterwards says, "Listen, I'm not going to get out there and talk about marijuana and legalizing it because the guys are thinking about a tie-dyed van and guys Cheech and Chong jumping out of the back with smoke rolling out."
Yeah.
So, like I said before, we need to provide them cover and realize that it isn't just stoners, and there are a lot of everyday people and successful people who are using cannabis on a regular basis.
Well, here's something I read today that was really interesting is they had Wall Street, obviously, is taking notice. They had a phone conference, Cohen and Company, which is a century-old firm. They said in a decade, it could be a $50 billion industry. So my thing is what he's talking about is how we're trying to do it for the right reasons, get it out. But my biggest fear is all of a sudden we start putting money over what we should do with it, the same way that we always do when things go to Congress or when politicians get involved.
Yep.
The thing about Wall Street basically dictates how a lot of things work because we know that.
You think?
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
So all of a sudden, if they're like, "Hey, $50 billion,
Yeah.
how can we get involved?"
Oh, yeah.
And then
Where's our piece at?
Then
Yeah, that's one of the problems that they've had in the areas, Colorado and Washington, where the first adopters of legal marijuana, is they're trying to fight the influence of large corporations coming in and people who are not getting into it because it's a wonderful plant, can do a lot of good things for people.
Yep.
But just because, hey, I don't care about it's pot or whatever, I can make a ton of money at it.
Yeah.
And we want to, obviously there's a ton of money to be made. But we want to do it for the right reasons too. It's not just. This is a tremendously healing plant, and we need to recognize that as well as its marketability and profit potential.
it's the same way when they got involved in the pharmaceutical company. Look what happened.
Yeah.
Then we're overprescribing, and then
Now you got 11-year-olds
Right.
taking OxyContin.
Yeah, they just approved OxyContin in a
Chewable.
chewable form for kids. Now stop and think about the idiocy of that.
That's
gotta get 'em hooked.
That's ridiculous.
Got to get them addicted early.
Well, I know, but that's also the
Fucking
same
assholes.
That's also the same people that are paying for campaigns.
Yeah.
Right.
And also the same people when, they might lose the election, where do they go? They go work for those companies to be lobbyists.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
the revolving door. But that goes back to what we're talking about, which is getting people involved and getting people to contact the legislators, to talk to their county prosecutors about what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you arresting people and putting people into the prison system? All right, for essentially a non-criminal activity, and once and as part of that, when they do in those states where you do have legalized marijuana, or medicinal marijuana, is to say, listen, we don't want to have just huge, large corporations coming in and taking over.
Monsanto.
So yeah, it's a.
that's
a
one
moving object.
and that's one of the things about it is I guarantee you the old myth of a gateway drug is I guarantee you these opiates that people are using, they lead to even things far worse. And that's my personal opinion. You may not agree with me, and that's fine.
Like here's a couple little stats that will kind of show you how.
Oh, by the way, Aaron did a ton of research.
Actually,
I'm so proud of you.
Actually, I only did a little bit of research. Most of this knowledge was already in my head. So, but you were talking about doctors a while ago. The most recent stat, as far as doctors go, is they say that 56% of doctors want cannabis legalized now.
Yeah,
which that's even up quite a bit from last year. I know. Mm-hmm. And if we were talking about money, our national debt now is what, $20 trillion or something like that.
That's a lot.
And I couldn't find the most recent stat, but 3 years ago, the U.S. government spent $7.7 billion to fight marijuana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
$7.7 billion when our national debt's $20 trillion. That's
It's a complete. It's one, and this is the bottom line of the whole thing. And that's, as I talked about it earlier, is I think the focus needs to be not so much about the details of marijuana. Is it good? Is it bad? Will it cure cancer? Will it cause lung cancer? Will it make you brain dead? Those kind of things. The biggest issue is, and this is when we used to have a couple of years ago, we had a booth at the state fair, and it was interesting. A lot of people come by and were very pro. A lot of people were, excuse me, very negative. But even those people who are negative, when you ask them, you say, okay, great. They come by and say, listen, I know my brother, cousin, uncle, whomever, is addicted to this, that, or the other thing, and they started on marijuana, and marijuana's bad, or I was in Nam, and the guys were smoking dope, they were no good as soldiers, and blah, 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 blah. And when you start to discuss it and get, okay, that's fine, I understand that, and you start backing them down and say, okay, but is that really a good reason to put them in jail? Do you think we should spend money to put these people in jail for using pot? And almost all of them, to a person, would say, well, no, not really. We shouldn't do that.
Let's get them help.
Yeah.
Let's help them.
If they need help, if they need help, they do. But another thing, too, from a philosophical standpoint is, should the government tell you what you can put in your body?
No, I'm an adult.
And it's not.
I should be able to make up my own mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and back to this point about being, it leads to this and this. It's everything in moderation. I mean, you could.
Oh, yeah.
It depends on the person, on who you are.
You can abuse cheeseburgers if you want to.
You can get addicted.
Which I have, sir. I have, sir.
You're getting personal now. And there's a lot of articles recently, new books out about sugar and how addictive sugar is. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
if they subjected sugar to the same kind of, attitudes and they looked at it the way they did marijuana, everybody would be in jail because they're using sugar. Sugar is addictive and deadly and will cause diseases.
Sugar's killed more people than cannabis has.
Absolutely.
By the way, people.
Absolutely.
I remember I was thinking about this the other day, and we were in the cereal aisle, and I was thinking about how I used to buy
sugar
Wheaties. Well, no,
Sugar aisle,
you used to buy
exactly, yeah.
Wheaties that had no sugar, no nothing,
Right.
because
Yeah.
you'd buy it because they have your favorite ball player on it, and then the next morning when you have it, it'd just be like, shh.
Yeah, I was gonna say you sprinkle the sugar on it.
Well, yeah, but that's intentional sugar that you can control.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not like I didn't do anything but put milk on it.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to have it, and I'm taking so many grams of sugar.
But
for kids.
frosted flakes and Lucky Charms are delicious.
No, there's no doubt about it.
I just think it's absurd because I think it's absurd because we still sell cigarettes, which I smoke. I'll admit it.
Yeah.
But we still sell cigarettes, which I know is going to kill me.
Right.
But we still say, because a lot of the farms are owned by, I think, the government now, a lot of them, right?
And a lot of the tobacco farms are getting subsidies, right?
They were getting subsidies. I don't know if they are so much now.
But you see what I'm
a lot of
saying?
the tobacco subsidies.
That's something that they know, but they're willing to say, well, you can make that decision.
Yeah,
You're an
make it-
adult to
yeah.
smoke a cigarette.
Right. Exactly.
Same way with drinking. Well, we know you're smart enough to know that. We're going to give you this prescription. You're smart enough to do that.
Yeah.
But we just don't want that because we don't want everybody, smoking and then sitting. And we're not even necessarily say smoking. There's other forms that people can actually use those for.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to that story of the lady who she was a doctor, and her child was having 20-some seizures a day.
Yeah.
And they found out a way to pull out the liquid.
Yeah, the CBD.
Yeah, and then he cut down the
THC.
seizures.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, there's been many
Yeah.
articles and information about that.
Yeah.
But the argument that the prohibitionists use to that, which I think is, well, your point is a very good point, is they're saying, oh, well, listen, tobacco is harmful, but we legalize that, and alcohol is harmful, and that's legal, but why should we allow a third poison to get into our society? Okay, well, folks, marijuana's here. It's not going away. It's continuing to grow in terms of usage. So it's not like by legalizing marijuana, all of a sudden it's going to pop out of everywhere and people are going to start using it like crazy. They're not. If you want to use pot, chances are you're using pot now. Okay, there's a lot of it around. It's the bottom line of the whole thing, and this is no matter who you talk to, you say, look, you talk to a prosecutor. Okay, how many beer distributors have you busted recently?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How many times do you bust this gang and because they're selling alcohol? Well, none. Well, why is that? Okay, it's not because it's not dangerous. It's because they can't make any money at it because it's legal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if they did the same thing with marijuana, all right, you wouldn't have gangs with guns and drugs with guns and lots of money. All right. It would be legal, and all of a sudden that crime, that so-called crime, would not exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we know that. Obviously, there's a lot of illegal drugs that are coming in and out of the country and everything like that. But one of the biggest one is that.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're saying half. Oh, I read a statistic. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
go
interrupt.
ahead.
But heard a statistic in doing the research for the program here that half of the drug arrests in the country are still for marijuana, for possession of small amounts of marijuana.
Yeah. Well, because it's, you have the prison system now that is, it's not, it's privately owned prisons.
Right. There's a lot of profit in that.
It is left up to the state to make sure that prison is kept at I think it's 90 something percent.
we have the most
capacity.
incarcerated. Most incarcerated by per capita by country.
Yeah,
we
by
incarcerate
far.
the most people.
by far.
to keep that prison full instead of instead of going after the big drug dealer, because he's just one person.
Right.
Instead of going after that one, let's go after the guy that maybe just has a joint in his pocket.
Because El Chapo keeps getting away.
Yeah. So instead of just getting one guy, now you may get 5 people that are just carrying a joint.
Right. Because, and one of the things they're doing that, excuse me, one of the reasons that they're doing that is because it's low-hanging fruit. It's easy to bust the people with small amounts of pot.
Absolutely.
And they don't have, a lot of times they're poor minorities, don't have access to good legal care, and so they offer them a plea bargain, and they take the plea bargain to get out of trouble. Well, so it's a really, when you stop and think about it from the standpoint of prohibition and all the horrible things that happen with the war on drugs, it really is a travesty, and that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it always seems like we do a war on drugs when it starts affecting a certain how do I say it? Certain tax bracket. Then that's
demographic.
Demographic. Then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we have a problem." Well, we've always had a problem, but we're always reactive instead of proactive.
Well, as long as it was just the blacks and Mexicans, it was not a big deal. But now that it's starting to be white people, young white people, and it's a different thing.
And that's very troubling. Is my biggest concern with any of this is I think is only way we're going to get a lot of this accomplished is with help with through the government and through those channels. But my biggest fear is them being so involved in it. And that's my biggest fear, is because we've seen what happens when they get involved in a lot of things, is because they have a tendency to, I don't know.
It's like you mentioned before, BJ. There's two aspects of this. First of all, is that how much money is created by them arresting people for marijuana, okay? Because they do get subsidies from the federal government, from the DEA, all right? The success on the war on drugs. So it's a money-making thing for them. It helps boost their arrest statistics, okay? All the prosecutors in all the tiny counties around town or a state can talk about how they're getting tough on crime, and they're snuffing out drugs in their community. So it's really a moneymaker and a positive for them, all right, in their eyes. So you got that aspect of it, and then you've got the other aspect of it. If it does become legal, then the government's going to get involved and only allow, like they did in Ohio. The thing that's interesting is, when Ohio, they had a legislation a couple of years ago, a referendum, were they going to allow legal marijuana, but they're only going to allow 10 different companies throughout the entire state.
Yeah, they made
to
a
control
monopoly.
the entire thing. They made a monopoly of that.
Yep.
And the people in Ohio rightfully said, no, we don't want this. So we don't want legal marijuana under these conditions.
Yeah.
They also voted for a referendum that said the state cannot set up monopolies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So the drug warriors are going to say that, that was in Ohio. Marijuana failed in Ohio. Well, yes, it failed in Ohio, and there's good reasons for it.
But the people made it fail.
Yeah. Well, the government made it fail. It's like you're talking about, BJ. The government getting involved and letting big institutional people, corporate people come in and try and control it.
Yeah, and that's I just want for once, and I know that I live in a fairy tale land like Peter Pan, but just do what's right. Just do what's right.
I look at it
not necessarily on this topic, but as we're going
in general,
forward.
Yeah.
In general,
I mean, as far as cannabis goes, I mean, I feel that if it could help, I mean, one person.
Right.
Then why not give it a shot?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, I feel like nobody cares anymore. Like, nobody cares about the other person.
Well, that's a general trend in all politics that we're seeing, the balkanization of the political spectrum. Everybody's got their own little tribe and their own little way of thinking and their own little source of news, and they can't see. And I think that's probably one of the biggest problems we have in society today is a lack of empathy, a lack of, regardless of what color you are, what demographic you are, what political spectrum you are, we're all humans, and there's much more that connects us together than what keeps us apart. And
Absolutely.
to realize that even people like Governor Pence, whom I really think very, very lowly of, and Donald Trump, they're human beings, and we need to relate to them on a human level and start that whole process and think like that rather than instead of thinking about, hey, my political party or my particular point of view.
And that's one thing I noticed is it's almost like if you have to, you either you're a liberal or you're conservative, which me and you've talked about a million times.
Two-party system is stupid.
Oh yeah, that's a complete
So there, but we don't like. I want to give everybody a chance. It's like when they bring in a new boss. You're like, and one of your favorite bosses just left right off in the sunset, whatever, and then a new one comes in, and right away it's just nothing but it's hate going out, hate coming in, going out, going in.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you stand over there with him, then I don't know if we can be friends. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I just
How about
helped
some
you
basic
move.
human decency.
Yeah, I just helped you move, asshole.
Yeah. No, I mean, like as far as Trump goes, he said, throughout, the whole, his campaign that, and he kind of flip-flopped.
Yeah, a little bit, you think?
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. So
It's pretty well documented.
but a lot of the times he said that, he still kept on for medicinal, it seemed like. Like he still was kind of like, I've seen a lot of good things, of this, that, and the other,
Right.
Then the dumbass goes and takes fucking Jeff Sessions.
Right. Well, we can spend days talking about Trump and the incoming administration, but it's he's an opportunist. Okay, he's a con man, and he's in any given situation, he's going to tell you whatever you want to hear to get through that particular situation. Okay, that particular news conference or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like he's playing, like the words and ideas are just playing cards. And this, I'm going to play this card. Okay.
Yeah.
Now with you, okay, I'm going to play a different card, even though it's different, completely 180 degrees different from what I did over here. Okay. He's just short-term con man. Okay. He's trying to change. So God knows what he's going to do. They've talked about states' rights, which is a good thing when you stop and think about what Colorado and the entire West Coast actually has done.
Yeah.
What actually will happen with that? Pence is an extreme prohibitionist.
Oh, yes.
I don't trust him farther than I can throw him. And also Jeff Sessions is borderline fascist, I think, without getting putting too fine a point on it.
Yeah.
And when you stop and look at the entire thing, you have to back down and back up and see what started this whole thing. Why was the war on drugs started? And the modern war on drugs really goes back to Richard Nixon in the 1970s.
The Schaefer Report.
Yeah, and you guys weren't around then, so you don't know. But at that point, the country was pretty much boiling over with anti-war and anti-establishment fever. Okay, There were demonstrations. The war in Vietnam was going horribly, and so Nixon, in order to stop this anti-war movement, and this anti-establishment movement, the counterculture. And they talked about this. They just released a statement that they years ago, or not too long ago, from one of his chief of staff, Edelman, I think, or I forget his.
Yeah.
But where he was talking about one of the reasons he did that was try and go after the youth movement.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? It's a great way to do that. All of a sudden, they're using a lot of marijuana. That's the most dangerous thing in the world. They're not only is it dangerous, but they are a threat, an existential threat to the country. Okay, that they're going to destroy our way of life because they're lefties and commies, and dirty hippies.
Yeah.
And so we need to go after them. So that started the whole war on drugs. So it was never about the drug. It was never about marijuana itself. Because after he commissioned the Schaefer Report, and they came out and said, no, there's no difference between people that use marijuana and people that don't use marijuana. There's no reason for it to be for it to remain illegal. It should be decriminalized. He ignored that completely and funded the DEA and started the war on drugs.
Yeah.
So it's never been about drugs. It's always been about police power and government control. Okay, trying to control and suppress dissent.
That's where that $7.7 billion comes into play.
Right. So all of those people who are prohibitionists, that's what they're motivated by.
Oh, yeah.
They're not motivated by, oh, it's a horrible drug. You can talk all day about, is it good, is it bad? The bottom line is, should we put people in jail for it?
No, absolutely not.
And you shouldn't. Okay?
It's a plant.
Well, besides that, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
But the whole idea, prohibition doesn't work. It did not work. It was a complete failure with alcohol. Okay, and we changed it. The war on drugs is the exact same thing, only it's a plant, okay, and other drugs are supposed to be a liquid drug.
You have to look at that prohibition of alcohol, what it created.
Right.
It created the
Violence.
mafia.
Yeah.
It created the
violence
mafia,
and
yeah.
murder and death. It's,
Drive-bys.
Look what. Okay, so now we have prohibition on cannabis, which we've had for the last 70 years or whatever, and look what happened. What did we get? We got El Chapo. We got the Mexican
Exactly.
cartels.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the same thing.
And this is a little off subject. When I was in Chicago, I was working in a real old building, and they took us down the basement. They showed us a bunch of the speakeasies, and it was one of the coolest things. And they were telling us some of the facts about, because Chicago was at the forefront of, prohibition and the things that they did. But I mean, it's the same way now. I mean, they're going to find it, they're going to have it.
Oh yeah.
But they think by putting everybody in jail for a small amount, or even they're not distributing. They're not trying to. They don't have 100 pounds or 1,000 pounds in a semi truck or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem is our laws, things have not evolved.
Not at all.
No.
Well, in a lot of ways they have not, but in a lot of ways they have. Obviously, I honestly, I'm 65 years old. I thought I would go to my grave with marijuana still being illegal throughout the entire country. So I'm flabbergasted when you stop and back up and look at it historically, the big picture. I'm flabbergasted that so many states around the country have realized it's stupid to put people in jail for this, and there are medicinal benefits. And regardless of what all the prohibitionists say, it does have medicinal benefits. It's got medicinal benefits. People have been using marijuana since 2700 BC is the first documented use.
Well, you look at all the old medicine bottles.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
from back in the 1800s, and it's cannabis, whatever, and
You can go online. I ask anybody that's listening to the podcast, go online and put in cannabis as a medicine, and you'll see a lot of images, including ones from Eli Lilly, about cannabis extract. It was part of the U.S. pharmacopoeia from through the 20s and 30s into the 40s.
Yeah, I mean you have to realize that a lot of the medicines that you're getting nowadays, the amount of studies that have been done on that medicine, they may have only done 4 or 5 studies on those medicines. Cannabis has had over 20,000 studies done on it.
Right.
And every one of them have came back positive.
Well, there's been some studies. I mean, generally speaking, yes, there have been some studies
yeah, I
that
mean,
show there's
some
a small amount.
yeah.
There are. It does have some negative effects, but not enough negative effects to say, "Hey, we should put you in jail because of
No,
that."
absolutely
That's-
not.
The most common one is reoccurring bronchitis. That's basically the only one that's I've seen in the 5 different studies I've seen from 2014 to 16.
Yeah.
It's recurring bronchitis.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're still putting a warm substance, if you smoke it,
Right.
into your lungs. So I mean, obviously that
That's
can
not-
cause some.
Right. That's not help, but it's there's ways to vaporize it.
Yes,
as
absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, and
You
then
can eat it.
they rank
Vape
they rank it as a Schedule 1
Yep.
above prescription opiates like Vicodin and OxyContin that were linked to more than 180,000 deaths from 1999 to 2015.
yeah. It's really and in terms of the studies, the war on drugs is really, and people don't understand this, particularly people who are not involved in cannabis at all, that it's really insidious the way that they've set this up, because they've got the DEA, and the DEA says, there's no, like you said, a Schedule 1, there's no accepted medical use, according to the people that they say. They say that it's only going to be the FDA, okay, that is going to be able to do this, and we're not going to let the FDA study it because, all right, it's a dangerous drug.
Yeah.
And the other government agencies, the National Institute on Drug Abuse, right? It's their mission, their stated mission, okay, to talk about and dissuade people from using marijuana and to avoid any positive discussions about marijuana at all, okay,
Wow.
or cannabis. So it's a catch-22. It's a circle. So there's, like you mentioned, there in that book I left you, there's 22,000 different studies that have been done worldwide, particularly in Israel, about the effects of cannabis.
Well, that's
right?
where a lot of it started, right?
Right.
I can't remember that doctor's name, but I remember I had watched a documentary and
Right.
it was talking about him, and he said he was telling the story about how he first was able to get some cannabis to be able to study it, and because he went to the Israeli government to say, well, I think we, want to study this, and they gave him the go ahead. And he said he literally had to just go find somebody who sold it and buy it. And he said he walked home with it in a grocery bag, just down the street with a bag full of pot.
Yeah. So the thing of it is that the anybody who has any remote experience, even anecdotally with marijuana, knows that it's nowhere near as dangerous as heroin or cocaine, which is Schedule 2.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, I had a sinus surgery here as back in 2009, I believe, and when I got done, my doctor was telling me, what all he had done, like as far as step-by-step process, and he told me, like, he got to a certain point and he was like, and I used a little bit of cocaine on your nose to do this, and I went, whoa, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
He was like, what? Which part? I was like, you put cocaine in my nose? And he says, well, yeah, it helps cauterize to stop the bleeding. And I was like, holy shit, how is this?
It's got medicinal benefits. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
That.
But so there's so many different ways. we could
talk about this for weeks and weeks.
We absolutely could.
But once again, I think I keep coming back to it's should we put people in jail for using a plant? And the answer is almost always no. It doesn't. There's no justification from a moral standpoint, from a political standpoint, from a philosophical standpoint to do this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I firmly believe that. As far as what can we do in, like, let's just say the state of Indiana, because me and you both know that this is going to be one of the hardest states to get this.
Well, it is, and we're under no illusions that this is going to be immediate. Norml's been working on this literally for 40 years here in Indiana. We are seeing more and more activity, and as you mentioned earlier, there's 5 or 6 different bills that are being introduced in the legislature today.
I think some of them have to do with the hemp bill, and then
right.
But I think
CBDs.
And I think there's the rest of them are medical, stuff like that.
Medical
CBD.
The biggest thing that you can do, and this goes not only for this issue but any other issue that people are upset about the election results, is you need to get involved. You need the political system we've got is an imperfect system, but it's the only system we've got. So unless you're going to go out and start throwing bombs and shooting people and burning down buildings in the revolution, the only other way is to work through the system, and that means talking to your legislators, writing letters to the editor, talking to your county prosecutors and finding out what's going on in your particular county. Join Norml, all right? Come to our meetings. We have meetings the third Saturday of every month at 3601 North Pennsylvania, and we're trying to get more people involved, more young people, to let people know that, hey, the idea about marijuana being a horrible thing is a misnomer, that prohibition is a complete failure.
Yep.
And we need to do some things to change. So contact your legislator and get involved. That's the best thing to do.
I mean, I feel like some people, like, I don't have a problem talking about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll talk about it with anybody. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, I don't care, because I'm old enough to not care. It's
wait till you retire, buddy. Then you really won't care.
It's it's my opinion. Whether you agree with it or not, but I'm also young enough to argue it to a point where it's, I'm almost an asshole. But, I still feel like a lot of people find it, that it's taboo to talk about, like people who don't believe like me, or people who haven't had an experience with it.
Right.
They still, instead of, taking some time and maybe, going on the internet. We have this internet that has all the information you could ever imagine on it.
It's stupendous.
And you can go on there and you can do your own research, look at some of these studies that have been done, look at the outcomes of the tests that have been done, see that it can kill some cancers, see that it can help with PTSD.
Right.
See all this stuff. Don't just take what you've learned over your life and say, well, that's it, because it's not.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were talking about too. There's at least 2 sides to every argument. But you're right. I think it's interesting because I'm 65, so my age group, my demographic, the baby boomers, obviously a lot of us are familiar with cannabis and have been involved with it for a while, but a lot of them have not. I think people of your generation, okay, are a lot more open to talking about it. Okay, it's not as taboo. But we got two things working against us. First of all, it's a controversial subject. All right, there's still a lot of hush-hush about it. That's becoming less and less all of the time.
Yeah.
But here in Indiana, we're a very conservative state. Okay, people are reluctant to get involved on any issue. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Let alone something as controversial. And a lot of people, when we have booths out, like at the Indiana State Fair, I'd come back and they didn't want to sign up because they were afraid that the Indiana police, the state police, or the local police are going to find out and come knocking on their door.
Yeah.
So that's one of the hidden horrors of the whole war on drugs is that fear factor. Okay. And the paranoia that's driven by the fact that it's illegal.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that have said, "Hey, my mother, my grandfather, whatever, older person in my family is sick, and they're doing chemotherapy, and they'd love to be able to use marijuana, but hey, it's against the law, so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that." So,
well, I think I think Willie Nelson said that the most dangerous thing you can do with cannabis is get caught with it.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's a lot of truth in that. But I feel like if you're not going to use it, and you do want to get involved, but you do have that, that fear, okay, well, is the police going to come knocking on my door? Well, if you don't use it, then you're not going to have a problem.
Yeah.
You let them come, let them search your house, and you're not going to find nothing.
And the heck of it is that the study after study they just did, I don't know if you guys looked at the WTHR study. It was on the internet.
No, I didn't look at that.
I don't think so.
This came out last December, I think, was by, and they found, the vast majority, 60 or 70% of people at Hoosiers want to have changes to marijuana laws.
I did see that. Actually, I think I did see that.
Yeah.
Where it was, and now the stat I saw the other day, it was closer to it was over 70.
Yeah, and all the people, and I've been talking about this for years with different people, and people say, "Hey, I just legalize and get it over with, and stop this stuff. It's crazy to do that." So people, I don't smoke it, I don't like it, I don't care, but stop this.
Yeah,
I think Daniel Tosh said that. He's like, yeah, we should. He goes, yeah, we should legalize marijuana, and everybody claps like, so the stoners have nothing to bitch about anymore. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate just for a minute here.
No, go ahead.
I think what hurts is like a lot of things is how it's portrayed, not by the negative media, but by how it's like. If you're a parent and then you look at how some of it's portrayed in music videos, how
absolutely.
it's portrayed in music,
yep,
and then that doesn't help the image of it because it's like, okay, so you guys
Snoop Dogg smoking a big blunt with some strippers laying around.
Like I always say, like I always say,
40s,
40 in a blunt, But I think that's where it's always perception over reality. Is we always. Mm-hmm. We can make it spin any way we want. My main point about it is, do I want to see people walk around the middle of the streets smoking? No, I don't. But I want us to look at if people are dying, people are in pain, if something happens to one of my relatives and it can better their life instead of shoving down more and more pills down their throat. Or that's I want to explore that.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, that's where I'm coming from on it, and that's where I'm very open minded to a lot of things. Mm-hmm. If we need to look at what's best, what for everybody, if it can help, it can help. Good Lord, I mean, if we took whatever we could do to make something better, we need to try it, but we don't.
No.
Yeah.
Just the same way I see, these quit smoking things and stuff like that. Like, hey, when I see these commercials, I'm always like, okay. What's your program to help people quit? Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's that stupid truth one.
Yeah.
It drives me insane.
Well, my biggest beef with it is, and it's mainly back to being legalized medicinally is, you've watched all these documentaries and Dr. Sanjay Gupta and
right.
All this stuff, and you see these kids who are fighting seizures, who are fighting all this stuff, epilepsy,
right.
and these people, like you said earlier about the doctor or someone's having 20 a day. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got kids that are having more than that, and you give them this one little CBD, not even THC, right. Giving them CBD, and it's knocking them down to none,
right? Like
almost immediately.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And so then. The thing that's interesting, too, is here in the Indiana legislature last year, I think they passed a bill that allowed for off-label uses of untested drugs, okay, for terminal patients, okay. So they're saying, hey, listen, if you've got some, like you were saying, BJ, if you've got some horrible disease and you can use unapproved therapies to try and save your life, which is only. But if they're going to do that, why would they not at least consider medical marijuana, which has tons of proven benefits for it, okay? And it's because that countercultural police power, crushing dissent thing.
Yeah, because I think, we talk about the CBD, and, I don't want people to get the idea that it's just the CBD that works. A lot of the studies that have been done, you've had to have both, THC and CBD, like as far as like the cancers go,
right?
Like the cancer didn't respond to strictly CBD as well as it did with the THC also.
Yeah, with cannabis, you've got I forget the exact number, but several hundred different cannabinoids, including THC, CBD, CBA, and numerous others.
Which doesn't your body already produce?
Yeah, your body has the endocannabinoid system, though.
Yeah.
So there's receptors within your brain that are specifically designed for THC, and cannabinoids. But one of the situations they found out, yes, the CBD oil is effective in a lot of cases, but there's also what they call the entourage effect, which means when you take CBD, it has this effect. When you take CBD and you have THC and some other cannabinoids, that increases boosted, right? So it's not just that one isolated chemical.
Yeah. I mean, I should have brought up more studies on this. BJ always gets at me because I don't do research, and I should have done a little more research on this. But
and I was doing some research, because I wanted to be prepared coming in and talk with you guys. But I think the biggest argument, and the reason for it is not so much the specifics. And this is the problem when you get into a prohibitionist and you get into, this particular study said that and a particular study said that. There was a study that came out from the Indiana Sheriff or the Sheriff's Association out in Colorado talking about how horrible it was, and arrests are up and all the emergency room visits are up and all that kind of stuff. And they're cherry picking the various bits and pieces out of the studies and only looking at it from one way. For example, people that get hospitalized, have an accident, or they take their blood. Well, if they find any amount of marijuana, it's put in as, hey, they're in there for marijuana, even though they could have been dead drunk or they could have used marijuana 5 days ago and they had no impact at all, but they're still reporting that as a marijuana problem.
And which we found out, because the rumor always was that if you smoked cannabis, it was in your system for 30 days. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing a little bit of research, and I came across this. It was just a chart, and it actually told you, like, if you used it, like once a week, or if you used, or all the way to somebody who uses it a lot, and it gave you the exact amount of days it would stay in your system depending on your weight. Mm-hmm. Your fat cell count, which is where THC is stored.
Exactly.
And somebody with zero fat count that may smoke it occasionally, like, it's only going to stay in your system like 5 to 10 days.
Right.
But somebody who weighs 300 pounds, if you use it occasionally, it may stay in your system 45 days.
Right.
So I don't think people understand that.
Well, and that's why. That's the danger you get into when you start to talk about all the different studies and data and everything else. Because regardless of all of that, the bottom line is, even if it did, and there are some people that get addicted to it, just like they get addicted to other things. There are some people that are going to have some psychological
problems. But it's a different
problems.
addiction.
Well, yeah, and there's some people that are going to develop psychological problems because of that. But that still doesn't mean that they should arrest people for it.
Oh, absolutely not.
So I really try and focus on the philosophical, the larger picture. And one of the things you think about is, let's assume, for sake of argument, that marijuana really is as bad as they say. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's going to destroy your life. It's going to make you an idiot. You're going to lose your motivation to do anything, and it's going to give you cancer and all that. If that's true, let's say, if that really is true, wouldn't you want to do everything you can to regulate that and try and keep that away from kids?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you should regulate it. It should be legal and controlled, all right? Right now it's completely uncontrolled.
Yeah.
Anybody can go buy pot. High schoolers in this state, okay, anywhere around the country, can go and find marijuana easier than they can find alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Because alcohol's legal and regulated and controlled.
Yep.
All right.
They even say that the teen use of cannabis in Colorado has dropped dramatically since they legalized it.
Right.
You know, one, you know, okay, so we legalized it, and you know we're controlling it.
Exactly.
On the other hand, it's no longer cool.
Right. This is a forbidden fruit thing, okay? Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I tell you what, when I first started smoking pot back in 1970, I said, yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I'm fighting the man. You know, blah, blah, blah. And when you take that forbidden fruit away, that's a huge motivator. It's like, it's like when I went to Colorado and I went to a dispensary, you know, I was thinking, oh, man, this is going to be a eureka moment. It's going to be like, oh, my God, look, I can buy pot. You know, and you get in there and it's like, it's no big deal. It's like when you were a kid and you went to a liquor store and you look at the liquor store and you think, oh my God, look at all those bottles. Oh, they're beautiful and green. So I'm going to get one of those. I'm going to get one of those. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be so wonderful. And then when you get old enough to buy liquor, you go and you go, I want some of this. I want some of that. It's not a big deal. It's all of a sudden the thrill just went out of it. And that's exactly how it was for me when I went into the dispensary.
I was going to ask you that. I was like, have you had a chance to go out there? Because like, you know, in my mind, you know, of course I haven't been able to use cannabis for coming up on 11 years, the 23rd of this month.
But who's counting?
So, you know, in my
struggle remembering your wedding anniversary.
Hey, you remember the important things in your life.
That's right.
Duly noted.
My wife doesn't listen to this, so I can say that.
Right. Thank God.
You know, I kind of saw it as, you know, I would go out and I'd walk in and it would be that, you know, the room would light up,
That's right.
you know, and the angels would come from the heavens and be singing, you know, be singing some Foghat or something coming down at me. But I mean, but you're right. You know, it's because now it's not forbidden. You know, you go to Colorado and it's not forbidden.
It's not a big deal. It's normal.
Yeah, now everybody's at the local Quickie Mart, all sitting down the chips aisle, eating all the chips, sitting there on the ground. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stereotypes that need to be removed.
Well, yeah, and when you stop and think of guys like Carl Sagan, okay, who went on record talking about how marijuana really helped him be more creative and think outside the box and how wonderful it was for him. You know, it's not Cheech and Chong anymore. And people, the prohibitionists, want to continue to say that. They're still talking about, you know, one of the biggest problems we have here in Indiana is with the County Defenders Association, the association of all the county prosecuting attorneys.
Yep.
And they're still, you know, hey, it's a dangerous drug, it's a gateway drug, okay, there's no reason for it to be legal. Well, it's because they're benefiting from it. It's in their best interest to keep it illegal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're getting paid.
They're getting paid, and they're getting people into, when you get arrested, okay, for a small amount, okay, you're into the criminal justice system. They're going to make you be on probation. They're going to make you take drug classes. It's a moneymaker for them from the person that got arrested, and also they get subsidized by the federal government. Yeah.
Well, they say they're like the amount of kids that are in more or less rehab for pot. Well, it's because they're given the option.
Exactly.
They're given the option. Do you want to go to jail or do you want to go into rehab?
In this rehab program. Right.
My name's Aaron. I am an I'm an addict. I'll play that game. I don't want to go to jail.
Yeah. Well, and part of that too, when you get into it, is, you know, how much you say. When are you going to say, "I love Big Brother"?
Yeah.
You know, I love Big Brother. I'll do it. You say, "I love Big Brother." Yeah. Well, no, it's not. There's an objective truth out there, and we need to try and pursue that whenever we can.
Oh, absolutely. I've watched a lot of documentaries. You know, I'm a documentary guy. BJ's a movie guy. You know, I
just watched a documentary on escorts in United Kingdom.
Was that on Netflix?
Yeah, it was.
There wasn't enough flesh for me. I went right through that one.
I know. I couldn't understand what she was saying either.
And my wife watched some documentary. It was called Life After Porn. And I just sat down. I was like, "You didn't wait for me."
I watched that one.
I would have watched that. Did you,
honey?
I still don't know.
That's right up my alley.
I still don't know what happened on that show, but apparently she was all about it. But but no, I did want to give a couple things for people. You know, if you don't want to actually sit down and go to Google and type in, do your research, I do have a couple documentaries. I'm sure we've all watched them. We all know what they entail. But I just want to give a couple, areas that people can go sit down. You can watch this stuff. You can share this stuff on social media. But I got a couple documentaries. They're not, real long documentaries, hour to 2 hours long. But they are very informative. Mm-hmm. They go over probably they do go over a lot of the same stuff we've talked about here today. But it'll give you a starting point.
Exactly.
And probably the very first one you should watch would be Culture High. Culture High is a great documentary. It is more into the health benefits, stopping the seizures of kids. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in it. But there is a part in there. I want to say it's about halfway to 3/4 of the way through there, where there's a young boy. I want to say he's like 5 or 6, 7, something like that. Has never said I love you. Has never said dad. Mm-hmm. Has never said anything because he's been having so many seizures every day. The kid cannot function. Mm-hmm. The parents had enough. Kind of like same story BJ was talking about. But his dad gives him the CBD, mm-hmm. and it's like a miracle.
Right.
His seizures stop. Now the kid can he finally was able to swim in a pool in the front yard. Right. And had never done that in his entire life.
Yeah, and the thing of it is even if that is just anecdotal evidence, and I know that's not a double-blind clinical trial, okay, doesn't that in and of it, even if it's like you said, even if it helped one person, why isn't that worth investigating? And that's the problem I've got with the Indiana legislature is that for years they've said, no, we're not even going to talk about it.
Yep.
All right, and they're the ones that talk so much about personal freedom, okay, less government, getting the government out of people's affairs, and then they turn around and do this.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so that's a big problem I've got with it.
And we saw how well that worked out in I think Scott County, where where the basically doctors were writing scripts like crazy for sexual favors. Maybe not all in Scott County, but then guess what? They dried up the pills and they started using actual heroin.
Right.
Yeah.
And then AIDS went through the roof. So we wait till things get at its worst, and instead of
and then scream that there's a big war and then jump on it with all kind of extreme measures.
Then there's some guy standing up here saying, if I was elected, this was what I would do. No, dude, people will find a way no matter what to get what they need.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right. And the heck of it is with marijuana and cannabis, it can help on the front end and on the back end. And for those people who are on a chronic pain, I can't tell you how many dozens and dozens of people came up to me and have said, I was on Oxycontin, I was on Vicodin, I was on Percocet, I was on a laundry list of these chemicals. And once I started using marijuana, cannabis, I got off of those. I was able to reduce them. All right. Yep. So you're going to prevent people from having to start opioids to start with to get on that addiction train. Okay. On the back end, when or if they are addicted, it will help the marijuana and cannabis will actually help them get off. All right. It helps reduce the impact of the withdrawal symptoms.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And also for those people with PTSD, it's helpful. Now, why? And this may be one of the reasons, one of the things that really pushes this over in Indiana. Okay, it's because you got a veteran who's saying, "Hey, it has helped me.
Yeah.
I had PTSD. I had a lot of different problems, and this has helped me. Why would you not allow me as a veteron to do that?"
Yeah.
Okay.
He served our country. He should be able to do whatever he wants.
Exactly. Exactly.
But so back to the documentaries.
Right.
Culture High, I would recommend you watch it first. Mm-hmm. Because it's going to make you sad and it's going to make you kind of wonder what the hell are we doing,
right,
because this isn't right. And then I want you to go in and I want you to watch The Union. And The Union is more of it gives you a lot of facts. Not just it helped this kid, it helped this kid. It gives you a lot of facts about cannabis and about why it's illegal, how all that got started, and it has to do with way back in the day, and cotton, and it's a long story. Just watch it; it's a good show. But then I want you to go in and I want you to watch. There's a documentary done by CNN with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Sanjay Gupta, yeah.
And I want you to watch number 1 first, and watch them in order. Watch number 1, then watch 2, then watch 3.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to tell you why, but you'll see the dramatic change in a doctor's opinion. Opinion from 1 to 3. Right. And if you can watch all those and still think, well, it still needs to be legal. then something's fucking wrong with you. So.
Right. Yeah.
But I will say I do know that Culture High is still on Netflix. The Union is, for some reason, is no longer still on Netflix. But you can find it on YouTube. You go on YouTube, just type in The Union. You'll see it. It talks, you can read the description. It talks about cannabis. Right. But then the Dr. Sanjay Gupta, I believe it might be on some on-demand stuff still from CNN. But if not, it's also on YouTube, so you can check those out.
Yeah, I think the Sanjay Gupta one is particularly enlightening because he was, adamantly against it. And he was a fraud. Yep. And he was real prohibitionist. And then we started investigating, like you said, BJ, keeping an open mind and looking at it. And he's at 180 degrees. He says, "Yeah, we should absolutely legalize this." So,
oh, absolutely. It's
fun topic, isn't it?
It just, man. All things aside, we just bullshit for a minute. I used it, and I was able to use cannabis for about 5 years, and there is. In my bloodline, there's a lot of addiction. I guess blood. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm very susceptible to addiction. Right?
There's some genetic factors there.
There is, and I'm a very I have to do something now. I probably got a little ADHD in me, and I always I could never sit still. And I remember growing up, my dad was always he's like, man, just sit still and relax. Just sit still and relax. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I was so
always thinking, I head in the clouds and stuff. Yeah.
I was always just so jacked up. I mean, that's why. I mean, I was into extreme sports. I wakeboard, I snowboard. I was in a little skateboard, a little BMX for a while. I played, football. Sports where I could just
energetic and
but it made me. But that stuff calmed me down. Because I was, And I remember, one of the first few times that, I used cannabis and I was actually able to just sit down and watch TV. I mean, it really, I remember doing it. I remember I was at a buddy's house and I remember doing it and I just sat down and I was just he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, nothing,
watch
man.
TV and eat some Cheetos.
What's on TV, And it allowed me to relax. Mm-hmm. And even though, I haven't used it in a long time, due to work, it almost kind of taught me how to calm down.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I can remember what that felt like and what was going on in my mind that allowed me to just kind of sit down and relax. Right. Now I am getting a little bit older, and all that extreme sports stuff that's tore my body up. And now I'm in pain.
It's harder to do that now.
Now I'm in pain a lot of times. So now I wish I could have some cannabis because I am in a lot of pain a lot of times.
It's I empathize with you guys, and it's too bad that you can't because it's a wonderful, wonderful substance, and it's done wonderfully for me for 40 years now.
Yeah.
So.
I just remember, when I remember how excited I got when Colorado, passed it and it was going to be legalized. And it was I was on my phone every other day, what are they saying about Indiana? Are we going that way too? Well,
and when you stop and think about it, by almost every measure, that's been a fantastic success. Okay.
Oh yeah.
If it wasn't, the business revenues are up. There's $700 million worth of sales. They've got $70 million worth of tax revenue. Okay. They're funding schools. Rents are up. Okay. Warehouse space vacancies are up. Businesses up in general. Employment's up. By every economic measure, this has been a gold mine.
Oh yeah,
for Colorado.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of prohibitionists are going to say, oh, but it's horrible. This and that, the other thing. There's always going to be some problems with everything. But in balance, this has been by far, and you can talk to people in Colorado, by far a very, very positive experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's what really sets it off in my mind that, makes me think that, and everybody should think that it's not as bad as what they've always made it out to be. Yeah. It's teen use is down. DUIs is down.
Right. And even
opioid use is down.
Right.
You know, I mean, I think that's a bigger point to make than
Exactly.
anything else. Because I mean, look at all the people that are dying from using opioids that are leading to heroin, that are leading to shooting up fentanyl or whatever the hell it's been.
Yeah, very, very bad stuff. So
I mean, I really think as a society we should all take a step back and reevaluate how we're thinking about this.
Well, and hell of it is, a couple of years ago when this whole thing was exploding with Colorado and everything, I was in a bookstore, all right? I was in Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
And I looked down, and it was a National Geographic. Now, you guys don't understand. National Geographic, for decades and decades, has been the gold standard for public information about science, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Extremely well respected, as mainstream as you can get, with a gold, with a yellow, border and everything. And they had a big marijuana leaf on the front about marijuana, and I just about peed my pants. It was, because that used to be the kind of thing you'd go to hide to the, the local head shop, and sneak a copy and stuff.
Get a high time.
And to see a mainstream journal like that, okay, and then also articles in Time and others talking about marijuana, it's starting to come out, it's starting to get away from that, hysteria and stereotypes you were talking about, and becoming more mainstream. Almost. Like we talked about, we cited that study in Indiana where 70% of the people want change. I think that's about the same across the country. The vast majority of people say it's ridiculous to try and do this. And when you stop and think about it, the drug war's a complete failure. There's more drugs available now at lower price and greater purity than ever when they started the war on drugs 1 trillion years ago. And there's so many millions and billions of people in jail for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
we try to please all the constituents at once, and you can't do that because you're doing it at the price of people.
Right.
So, I mean, every time they try to pass a bill, they try to add more stuff on the bottom. Like, hey, we'll pass this, but then we're going to tie in 5 things at the bottom.
Oh, exactly.
That's going to, that's...
Well, one of the things, perfect example is that, is for years and years, they've been trying to get some reform to the Indiana Penal Code, which hadn't changed since the 1970s. Well, 2 years ago, they passed and made some changes, one of which changed the classification of marijuana slightly. Not much to really make any effect. Well, just last year, the Indiana State Prosecuting Attorneys Council went back to try and increase the penalties. They keep thinking they want to increase the penalties because if we keep making it so costly for these people to sell the stuff, sell drugs or marijuana, anything, that it's going to stop. Well, it's not. Okay, as long as it's illegal, okay, there's going to be money to be made from it, okay, and that's going to draw people to do that.
Yep.
It's like you said earlier, BJ. People, guess what? People like alcohol. Okay.
Yeah.
People like drugs. People really like marijuana.
Yeah.
All right. If this is going to be a free democratic society, you should let people do that, because the offsetting evils, there's more evil from keeping it illegal and the police presence, okay, and spying on people and throwing people in jail than there is any harm that's done by having it legal.
Yeah, because some cops in certain parts of the country actually want these statutes lowered a little bit.
Well, I seen a stat the other day that said a third of police officers in the country want it legalized, and they will not arrest you. Even today, if it's illegal in your state, there's a third, of the officers across the country that will not arrest you. They might take it,
Confiscate it,
but they're not going to arrest you.
I think that's great if they would really do that. That's wonderful.
Like with, a lot of the, of course, getting into CPS and that shit, that's a whole different ballgame. But even some of those, they don't, I kind of had a little bit of an insider, view into that. And they even said, like a lot of the, the people who work for them even say that they really don't want you to waste your time on
harassing people
parents
that might smoke marijuana,
who use marijuana, because they even know, like, there's kids out here that are like, there was a kid, like I think I seen in the news here a couple of years ago where she was 12 and she was feral because her parent, they put her in a room and let her shit on the floor, and it's like, let's worry about that person. Let's not worry about the parent who may come home at night, smoke a joint,
but he's got a job and his
exactly
kids are doing fine. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
But and then you also have the other states where, a parent smokes a joint and the kid goes to school and says, well, my mama uses a plant to, help her sleep at night, and then now that kid's with somebody else.
Yeah. So that's one of the hidden factors of the drug war that people don't think about. It's a cascading effect of all this bad stuff, and It's just completely out of control.
Oh, it absolutely is. It I don't know. I hope the people who have listened today, can at least take something away from this to go do some research, and like you say, call your representatives, and
we'd really like to get people involved in Indiana Norml. As I mentioned, we've got a meeting coming up next Saturday, the 21st. Our office is at 3601 North Pennsylvania. We want to come and see what we're doing and get involved. Go on the website, get some information. You can become a member on the website. If you don't want to get involved with Norml, at least become interested and informed about the issue. As I mentioned, there's 2 other organizations, great organizations, the Higher Fellowship, which is pushing for marijuana legalization, and also the Hoosier Veterans for Marijuana. One of the things that's coming up, I need to mention, maybe you've got it on the web, there's on February 9th at the Indiana State, go to higherfellowship.com, see if you can find.
Okay.
There's going to be February 9th at the Indiana State House. There's a discussion about the marijuana legalization efforts that Karen Tallien is putting on. So Higher Fellowship Indiana, I think is what it was. They've been doing a great job going around to each one of the counties to talk about that. So get online and research that, February 9th at the State House, and come down and support the efforts to have medical marijuana. County tour, town hall on cannabis. So maybe that's it.
This is phenomenal with the
I know.
There you go.
43-inch monitor.
There. Yeah, the 40-inch monitor is really cool. My TV's that big. So at the Town Hall on Cannabis Legalization, 2/29/2017, 12:30 to 2, Indiana State House, the main floor. That's at 200 West Washington Street. We got some, Senator Jim Tomes is going to be there. Okay, Chairman. Lake County Councilman Jamal Washington. Senator Tallien, which is
the hero.
The hero, God bless her. And then Jeff Staker is a retired Marine Corps person that's involved in Hoosier Veterans for Medical Cannabis. So
yeah, you can check these websites out. iNormal, their Indiana Norml is just inormal.com. Also go check out thehigherfellowship.org. Check them out. That's what we're looking at right now. It's
and then the Hoosier Veterans for down there.
Hoosier. Oh.
Down the lawmakers down the middle there.
Oh yeah,
lawmakers. Okay. They've got Facebook.com. So there's a bunch of there is some activity. A lot of organizations are getting more involved with this. So we want you to desperately get involved and
absolutely
try and change the law. So
you can go on iNormal. You can become a member. Like I said, you'll get to just get to help.
Get help. That's the thing. Yeah.
It's getting the word out. So, all right. Well, I believe if you got anything else to add, Mr. BJ.
No, I just think that we presented both sides a little bit. I mean, because we already know the detractors on it, but at least try to give a positive side or a educated side saying it should just be legal. Why it should be. Well,
right.
Well, I mean, here's why.
And we make no bones about it. Okay, there are some people that will have problems with it. There are some people who have problems with everything. So we need to be cognizant of that and not downplay that.
There's people who have problems with Tylenol PM.
Exactly.
Which has actually caused more deaths than cannabis ever. Just want to get. Right. Let me give you that little stat for those of you who don't know and maybe think I'm full of shit. There has actually never been a single death from cannabis overdose in the history of cannabis.
Right.
Zero.
It cannot kill you.
You can't do it. I believe it's something like, was it like 15,000 pounds in 15 minutes you would have to smoke?
You're going to get a headache. There's no lethal dose.
And one thing I do want to point out, because this is my favorite little fact, and a lot of this can be found online, but they one of the big ones that I feel like people really hang on to is that cannabis kills brain cells.
Oh yeah,
and there was a study done back years ago. I think it was in the 50s. Was that in the 50s?
Well, I know they've done something in Israel.
Some of it was part of the Schaefer report too, I believe. But anyway, cannabis has actually been seen. I believe there was another study that was done, I think in 2014 in Canada, where it showed through an MRI that the cannabis was actually helping to regrow brain cells. in certain parts of the brain where traumatic head injury comes in, right? So, but everybody then resorts back to, well, the government said that it kills brain cells.
Yeah.
Well, and I know we've said this a lot of times, but
Your government's lying to you.
how that study was done is what you need to look into.
Well, and also who authored the study as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. But what they actually did was they took a bunch of monkeys and they put gas masks on them and pumped in the equivalent of 65 joints of cannabis smoke into them in 3 minutes. And over time, did this over several months, and over time, they died because they went brain dead.
They had the
Well, let's think about what your brain needs to make it function.
Oxygen.
Number
for
one would be oxygen. So over months at a time, if you go 3 minutes a day and don't take in any oxygen, your brain's going to be fucked.
Yeah.
Just so you know. So, but you can look into that. A lot of that's in some of the documentaries and stuff too, which I'll give you those again. That's watch Culture High, The Union, and Dr. Sanjay Gupta's Weed 1 through 3, the CNN documentary.
So 2 fun things I came across because, we like to have fun. Home weed delivery is about to launch in New York City.
Oh, God.
It's actually through, thanks to, I think it's Viro, Vireo Health. New Yorkers can add something more to their list. And then the second thing I found funny when I was doing the research for this was transportation agencies are really sick of people stealing 420 mile marker. All right, we get it, 420. We get it.
Okay.
Quit stealing road signs because guess what? Taxpayers have to pay for the damn tax sign.
Exactly.
And then the last thing was in Canada issued a weed recall. So basically, if you got some bad weed, they called it back and they were going to replace it for the people.
What have you heard much about that? What's going on? What's going to go on in Canada?
Nothing more than the preliminary reports that Trudeau was going to legalize marijuana throughout or legalize cannabis throughout Canada.
But I did see they just arrested Mark and Jody Emery. Did you see that?
No.
For some reason here, that I want to say that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. For some reason, they went in and arrested him for something else. Yeah, in Canada. Because Mark Emery spent 5 years in prison here in the States.
Oh yeah, that was the guy that was when you really get into and read some of the things that the DEA has done, it's really despicable Gestapo type.
Oh, it is. Absolutely is. It absolutely is. But
well, this has been very helpful, guys. I really appreciate that. You come on and talk. This has been a lot of fun.
I absolutely love that you came on, man.
And that's one thing that we have our people we know on, our buddies on and stuff like that, but this is what we love to do is interview people and try to give them a platform without, because a lot of times is when you watch the news, or I don't care what channel you watch, that's not the point, but it's always attack, go back, attack. Instead of just letting people talk and actually just let them say what they need to say.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we didn't. I tried not to talk because I knew that you were going to have way more information than what I ever would.
No, I got a lot. I can talk. That's for sure.
I just hope we allowed him to get his message across, and get good information out to.
It was a good time. I enjoyed myself.
I did, man. I can sit here and listen to him talk for days. He's got some great stories, but we won't talk about those on air.
Maybe another day. No, really. Once again, thanks very much. We really appreciate the chance to talk about Norml and what we do and the cause in general. So
absolutely, man.
Hats off to you guys.
Love to have you back on sometime. But
so real fast before we cut off here, we redid the studio. Well, Aaron redid the studio, and you want to tell him? We got like a few minutes here. Tell him about the table real fast.
About the table. Oh, okay. So, we wanted to revamp the studio. We wanted to get a little soundproofing. And I thought we need an awesome table. Which it's about 75% done right now.
If you know Aaron, I had no involvement in this whatsoever.
So I know how to use a tape measure, but I guess sometimes I must think that it's wrong. And so I made this table, right? And
it's awesome. It is awesome.
Oh, it is. It's an awesome
great table. It is really
I was very impressed with myself. I've built some small stuff before, but I've never built a table like this. And so anyway, it's a very tight squeeze to get from downstairs to upstairs where the studio is, and I just didn't really take that into account when I was building this thing, and so it sat in my garage, for a couple weeks getting it put together and sanded and finished together, and so I had BJ come over yesterday on Saturday, and we were going to bring it up. So we get it up the stairs, and now giving you this table probably weighs, I want to say close to 100 pounds, maybe more. I mean, which isn't. I mean, actually, maybe more than that. It was pretty heavy. But anyway, it's top heavy. It's a table. So we get it up to the top of the steps, and we can't get it in the door. And BJ is standing, like 7 steps down, holding a 200-pound table above his head, and we can't get it in the door.
Grabbing pictures off the wall because I'm like,
he's holding the table, grabbing pictures off the wall, and handing them to my wife.
Because I keep thinking she's gonna be pissed when we screw up.
We're gonna smash this picture, and there's gonna be hell bad.
And so we finally decide that we're gonna have to stand the table up, spin it completely around in the hallway, which it only misses the light in the hallway by about a half an inch. So we get it spun around. Then we got to lay this dude back down, 200-pound table, back down the stairs, and then bring it in. Well, we get it brought in, and we had to turn the legs a different way so it would come in, right? Which would be there's a wall right there. We get it in. We can't get the back legs in because there's a closet right on this wall over here, and we were missing going in that closet by 3 inches. We ended up having to unscrew part of the legs and remotely bend them out a little bit, just enough to get it to slide into the room.
Well, it's a beautiful table. It's about 30 inches, 36 inches wide.
Yeah, it's 36 wide, and I want to say it's
6
over.
foot?
Oh, it's over 7 feet.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It's
a big
staying
table.
here if you move.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody buys my house, you're getting a table. It's not coming out. I'm just building another one.
You hire someone else.
It looks
to do
very
that.
nice, very professional.
I appreciate it, man. It turned out a lot better than I actually thought it would. With that, I want to thank Jack for coming in and the guys from iNormal. I think you can, like I said, the website is inormal.com.
Or inormal.org. We've got both of them. So
Okay. Yeah. And then they're also on Facebook. They're on Twitter. I believe Facebook is Indiana Norml.
I don't know if I'm on Twitter yet, but that's one of the things.
Okay, I thought I saw there was
could be,
iNormal.
but
they are.
Are they?
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'm not hip on that. So.
I don't believe they're on Instagram. I think maybe I looked one day. I don't think so. There's really nothing to put for that on there. But anyway, but that's you can follow us on Twitter. That's at Smugcast Show. We are also on Instagram. That's Smugcast _. We're on Facebook. You can find us. Just type in Smugcast. You'll see our beautiful mugs. You have any questions? You can hit us up on the email. That's smugcastshow@gmail.com. Also, got to thank some sponsors. Got to thank Ranger Nutrition. They are a disabled veteran-owned company. They do make all-natural sports nutrition products, and they are freaking amazing. BJ's taking a little testosterone booster, feeling like he's 18 again.
Absolutely.
You have low T, do you, BJ?
Steph's wondering what he's doing. But you can use promo code SMUGCAST at checkout, and you will get 15% off your order. Also, got to thank Repo Records. They hooked us up over the holidays. Our studio is looking top notch. I mean, they really helped us out. That's Repo Records, taking the music back. Also, got to thank Jay's Wings and Seafood over on the east side of Indianapolis, man. It is phenomenal.
AJ.
You pop in there, order, tell them Smugcast, they get 10% off your order. So, with that.
And then I can be reached at
on
Twitter.
Or should we give our personal stuff out?
At the BJ Robbins on Twitter.
I believe I am at Smugcast _AP.
And then I unfortunately have a Facebook page now.
But yeah, we finally got BJ on Facebook, but it's all good. Anyway. All right, so I guess that's it. Jack, you got anything else, buddy?
No, I really appreciate once again, thanks very much for letting me come
Yeah,
on.
man, I appreciate
No, it was
you
an
coming
honor.
on.
I loved it.
Great. Look forward to doing it again sometime.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, well,
all right, thanks a lot.
With that, this is Smugcast. Stay smug.